This is George again here, and we're continuing our conversation on branding. You know, we talked about branding assets in the previous class, in the episode. I'm sure you loved it. I'm sure you learned quite a lot from that. But now we're going a bit into something different, which is branding touch points. Okay, so somebody asked me one time, you know, what is a touch point? What is a touch point? Is it a point where you touch? Actually, yes. A touch point, interestingly, a touch point is that point of intersection between the brand and the target audience. That's the touch point. So it's that place where the brand exists and the target audience finally comes into the conversation and there is maybe an exchange or not, you know, value. That's a touch point. Now, in all of our branding, we must consider the various touch points that exist. We must do a broad and thorough research to say, where are all the possible places that people can come in contact with our brand? You know, and by the time you are able to look at all those possible places and you get the outcomes listed, you must have a strategy for ensuring that the same standard, the same intentions, if you remember, would give the person, the target audience, the exact perception that you have in mind for them. So you think about, for instance, let's start from you know, let's try and understand the definition properly. Who's your target audience? Your dream buyer, the person that every time the person interacts with your product, you get an exchange of value and you're excited for it. That's your dream buyer. That's the person in your target audience. I would say that's your primary target audience. You might have the secondary, for instance, your product is targeted at children, you know, but children don't have, you know, disposable income to buy your product. So your primary target will be maybe their moms. And then the secondary will be the children themselves to tell their moms to buy the product. You know, I know you get what I'm saying. Okay, but in this case, we're looking at the target audience as a whole, which is the primary and secondary. How do we ensure that at every touch point, they get the intended experience that we have? Okay, so touch points, you know, these days are divided into two, really. You have the physical and you have the virtual touch points. I think these days you have the hybrid, you know, which is a combination of both the physical and the virtual. But let's stay with what research and the curriculum is teaching us today. So we have the physical and we have the virtual touch points. Now, the physical touch points encompasses everything that is physical, tangible. You know, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. So first off, we take a look at, for instance, your office or your retail space. Okay, so you are a brand you're a fashion designer. You have a store somewhere. You have a store somewhere in Metama. You have a store in Lekki Phase 1. You have a store in Port Harcourt. You know, and all of those places, you have a store. That's an experience center. You know, remember, a touch point is every point where the target audience can experience your brand. That's the touch point. And so your office or your retail space is a major touch point for your brand. Coming into your environment can already give an impression of how the business is run and who is running the business and whether the business is a good brand or not. So you find these days that, for instance, I walked into an amazing, a beautiful space, which is the HQ of the Isaac Oyedepo Evangelical Ministries, and I was blown away. That's an experience center that has been given a pure, detailed attention. And so it's built in such a way that it gives identity to the brand. So you walk into that space, you feel like you're home. And now, people don't necessarily pay enough attention to their retail spaces. And what this does is customers come to buy things from them and they might get value from the product, but do not get value from the experience. So I walk into a store, for instance, this is a very terrible example. I walked into a store in one of the biggest malls in Nigeria, and then I entered the store and the people who were selling, you know, they just sat down. There was no, good afternoon, welcome to, you know, I don't want to mention the name of the place. And they just sat down and they were gisting amongst themselves. And I said, hey, I'm here to buy something, you know. And I said, oh, yeah, what do you want to buy? You know, so at that point, there was a disconnect between the promise that the name of the brand had made to me, and the experience that the staff in that store, which I said is an experience center, are delivering to me. So many times, the employees, which is my next point, is an important physical touch point. Are they trained properly? Do they look well? Do they speak well? Are they given the right tools? What kind of laptops do they use? If somebody is using a laptop that the screen is cracked, it tells on the quality of your brand. You are the one that is being affected. I say this all the time. I said, the brand is the name that is damaged. It's usually not the employee. I don't remember the names of the employees in that store. Till today, I don't even know them. They didn't even have name tags to start with, so I don't know them. But I remember the name of the brand. You see, those guys may have been fired, but they've done damage to a dream buyer. Okay, so the employees are an important part of our physical touch points. How trained are they? How do they look? How do they speak? What tools do they have? These are also important. Another thing, you know, your signages and your communication materials. I'm big on this because, you know, there must be that clear distinction, you know, that unique identity in your signages, on your billboards, on everything that is physical. That is a communication material you use. There must be that clear distinction. Another one is your documents. Okay, so think about your letterhead, your business cards, your envelopes, you know, your files, all of those things, they are part of your, there should not be plain sheets of paper on your table without your logo. Somebody walks in and is seeing that brand identity everywhere. You carry envelopes or files or folders and your identity is not on it. It's not owned by you. In most cases, you are promoting someone else's company. Maybe the name of the file jacket producer. So why don't you go ahead and create bespoke things for yourself that you would use every day? Because the truth is, you are the chief salesman of your brand. It is you that carries your brand to the ends of the earth. So you need to own it. You need to own that position as the chief salesperson of your brand, right? And this will show your documents. Now think about cars as a physical touch point. You know, you have, maybe you bought 6 official cars, for instance. I believe that the most viewed place, the most viewed portion of every vehicle is the bumper, because people will always drive behind you. Okay, so you're in traffic, people are behind you, they're seeing your bumper, that place where your plate number is, everybody sees it. That's a good place to put a sticker that has your brand. You know, that's a good place to put your website or something. It should not go to waste. Sell, use it to promote your brand, to push your brand identity so that there can be a conversion, you know. So all of these things are physical touch points. They are places where the dream buyer experiences your brand. And at that point, there must be a reality. There must be a connect between your intention and their perception, okay? The next one is virtual. You know, we talked about the 2 types of touch points. We talked about the physical, and now we're going to talk about the virtual, okay? The virtual touch points, really, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. These are not tangibles. These are the things that are in the clouds, you know, on the internet. You have the websites, you have social media platforms, you have email signatures, you have news mentions, you have conversations that you've earned. I'll talk a bit about all of them. You know, most importantly, one of the most vital real estate that you must own is the first page on Google in relation to your business and your brand, such that when people go to search for your industry or your business, they find you on that page, okay? So that is an important space. And if you're not there, you know, you're hardly taken serious. Imagine somebody putting your name on Google and still does not find you. There's a problem with that. So as you're thinking about your virtual touch points, you must consider that page. The Google first page is so important. Your website, is it mobile optimized? Can people access it from their phones? Is the load time short? How long does it take for it to load? Can people register for something, sign up for a free gift, get some information, connect with you? Is the website functional? You know, are the meta tags done properly? Is it searchable? Is it, you know, SEO compliant? All of those things you have to consider as you're building a website. But you must build a website. The truth is, you can't do business without the digital space. It's these days, in this generation we live in, we call it the always on generation. We're always online, on the phone, on our laptops, on our gadgets. Our cars are online today. Our television sets are online. Everything is connected to the internet. We're a connected generation. We're welcome to the world of the Internet of Things. And it introduces me to the next virtual touch point, which is social media. Conversations are going on every day on social media, whether you like it or not. The truth is, people are talking whether you're talking, and they may even be talking about you or things that concern you without your knowledge. We do not have appropriate listening skills. You know, there are technology, there are tools that we use for these things, Radio 6, Social Bakers, all of those things. You know, you listen to conversations that are going on that relate to your brand, and then you can build conversation pillars out of that. So you jump in on the conversations and take control of the part that concerns you. Okay, so when you listen on these things, you go on the appropriate social media based off of your target audience. You pick the kind of people that you're interested in, what platforms do they hang out on, and all of that, and you go into their space. Remember, your archetype must fit the target audience, the kind of personality that the target audience wants to relate with, okay? And then you have email signatures. You know, you send email, you just write best regards, George. You know, there's nothing that sells your brand that can get some attention for you and all of that. Please change. And then you have, see, very interesting now, you know, there are conversations that we earn, which someone just experiences your brand and goes online and talks about it. That is a touch point, because someone else is going to see that conversation and is going to influence his perception of your brand. So it's not just necessarily the assets that are touch points, even things that other people create. Somebody goes into your church and makes a video and says, wow, the music is so good. Oh, wow, what a word. Oh, the miracle's happening here. And then his friend or her friends see this comment online, and then it forms a perception about your church in their minds. Welcome to the always on, always connected generation, and we have to take advantage of this as we're building our touch points. Thank you so much for this session. My name is George. I hope you learned a lot. If you have questions, leave them in the comment box. Thank you.